Noswaith dda a chroeso I Ffoton yn fyw ar YouTube. Good evening and welcome to Ffoton live on YouTube. And it's my pleasure this evening to welcome a good friend, a mentor, and a fine photographer to discuss some of his recent work. And before we go to Tim Collier, I'd like to remind you of a survey, a photographic survey. If you're a curator, a photographer, have interests in photography in general in Wales, please fill in our survey. Thank you. And there's Tim Collier's website and my, I think that's my Instagram handle. Anyway, pleasure to welcome Tim Collier to the conversation this evening. I suppose the first question I should ask you, Tim, is how you're coping with lockdown.
Not too badly. It's been interesting, I think, in the sense that I've had projects that I've had to carry on with. So regardless of lockdown, things don't really stop in a way. I'm working on illustrating a book on the Dawn Chorus, which this first picture is about as well, and the first part of this series of images will be about. But it's a book that's going to be published in probably November, December. Well, of course, we've only got one Dawn Chorus before then, one spring before then, and in a way we're kind of losing that spring. So what's been interesting is I've kind of had to rejig a bit, rethink a bit. I'd have probably gone out to nature reserves, to other places where a Dawn Chorus is going to be quite loud, quite vocal. Mm-hmm. And I've kind of pulled it right back, and I've left my front door at 4 o'clock in the morning, walked locally around the Llantrisant area, and it's been a bit of a revelation, really. I mean, it's been fantastic. The sound has been fantastic, certainly around the 4:30 mark, but you tend to notice it more around 6 o'clock, because that's when you would have had traffic. Yeah. And there's no traffic at that point. So it's been really been lovely to do.
And what was the motivation? Obviously, you stayed within your local area. Have you found new places to explore in your?
Yeah, we found lots of new paths and things. But the interesting thing with the Dawn Chorus as well, of course, it does happen in an urban environment as well. So it's not just where there are trees, where there are kind of classic places where you would think you would just get the Dawn Chorus. I mean, this particular shot here that we're looking at, which is fairly deep and dark, it's taken around 4:15 in the morning, just up the road, and it's that where light is virtually non-existent. It's not there at all, and there is a temptation in this to kind of lift the image a bit, which you can do now with all the technology we have, but to keep it absolutely muted, to try and give an essence really of what the time is crucial, because this is when it does start. This is a blackbird, and this is, as I said, about 4:30, when it's really giving some, but just on the roof of a house just opposite here. So it's been an interesting one. The book that's going to be published in that time is there's a working title, which is Songs of Time and Place, the Dawn Chorus, and it's lots of pretty eminent writers are doing essays on all aspects of the Dawn Chorus. Mm-hmm. I'm illustrating a lot of it, and I'm also doing an essay in it on a Welsh woodland, a sessile oak woodland. Yeah. So that's aside from this. This is more of the illustrative side of things for the book itself. And again, all of these have been taken in the last week. These are quite hard to get, actually, because
I can well believe it.
Yeah, I mean, A, you've got to get the bird singing. B, you've got to get the time right in the day. And C, the bird has got to appear not behind a load of crap, basically. I mean, he has to kind of be apparent, so he's kind of silhouetted against the sky in these images. So we've got a robin, we've got a goldfinch, and we've got a great tit, and then we've got a wren bursting out there. And again, all just taken very locally, taken just down the road again. But it does take, it's not one trip that's going to do this. I've been up early quite a few mornings.
What's your favorite songbird?
Probably the blackcap.
Right.
And there's a little series of the blackcap in a minute.
Okay.
These are also this particular slide. Again, this, as you can see, we're clearly dawn. There's a moon there. This is down in the first shot is down at the Royal Mint.
Yes.
Llantrisant again. So just going down pretty early, watching the security guards who are watching you, thinking, what's he doing at this time? But again, it's a nice time to work. It's very nice. It's quiet. It's you have everything to yourself, even more so during lockdown. And then back up to Llantrisant Common. So these, again, this is to sort of illustrate that the dawn chorus isn't just happening in where we would think of nature reserves, woodlands and things. It is occurring. I mean, particularly the one in the Royal Mint there, it was really going some. Those trees were really, really going.
And perhaps we'll move on to the next slide. And
this is a series I'm trying to do. If I'm lucky enough to get a songster that will stay up somewhere for a while, and this song thrush did that for about half an hour. I actually had to walk away from him rather than him flying off from me, which was fantastic. So I did a little recording on the iPhone as well, and I had a wonderful half hour with him, right from, as you can see from the first set of images, which are about 6:05, to the second set, which is about 6:45, and he just went on. And there's more in this series that would take us right through as we move right through to sort of 7, 7:30, when actually the sky began to get blue at this time.
Yeah.
So these will kind of be illustrations that will feed into the book.
And who are you collaborating with?
Well, there's my brother's involved again with it, which is really nice for working together on this. We did the Ghost of the Restless Shore about 4 years ago, and we're collaborating on this. And then with, as I say, a lot of writers, particularly writers, essayists, who are pretty good in their field, but also we're working with a sound recordist who there will be a CD on this with music and with also bird sound and bird song as well. Bennett Hogg will be doing the music, and Jeff Sample, who will be doing the bird song. So it's a complete collaboration of art, photography, writing, sound, music, in much the same way that the Ghost of the Restless Shore was. It is a way that I do like to work. I like to work collaborative. I like to bounce off other people.
Yes.
It's something that we'll see as we go through here, that there's another collaboration that I'm working with. But it's an enjoyable way to work, collaborating. You find out more, you pull out more from yourself, definitely, as well. And it throws you in different directions, which I like.
Yeah. And Llantrisant Common looking particularly beautiful here as well.
Llantrisant Common with an inversion of mist,
Yes.
which is quite nice to have worked with. And again, the first image, the top left one, carrying crows sitting in there. It's difficult to get everything you want, and you're in, that sort of thing. You're in a situation when you want things to happen. It doesn't matter whether you're documentary photography doing something, or there's a moment that you're looking for, that you're hoping will give you something. And so there's a classic one. I was coming up the common, and the moon was there, and there was a wonderful branch, and there was a blackbird on it. And classically, just lifted your camera up and off he goes. Yeah. But that's what it's about, isn't it?
Yeah. Any sort of getting up that early in the morning and wandering around? Anything strange happened while you've been out? Anything that you unexpected?
No, I don't think so, really. No, just lovely to be there when there's absolutely nobody around, and that's very much me. Not a soul, not a dog walker. Nothing, nobody at all. Just me and what's out there and the sound.
Fabulous, fabulous. And
so this is the bird we were talking about before, the blackcap, which has a real explosive song. And the series of images here, they're just kind of the images coming in and kind of making it larger, larger, larger. And that is the kind of expression of the song itself. So it's a sort of visual pull of what is happening, to the bird, to the sound.
Yes.
So it's my favorite songster. I mean, I'd even probably go ahead of the nightingale with the blackcap for me.
Right.
The robin is a beauty. The robin is absolutely stunning as well. And below that, we've got the common whitethroat.
Yeah.
Which we've moved on a bit, but the common whitethroat was there again, and again phrased.
Before you go out on your expeditions, do you have? I mean, I know you have to wait for the birds, and that's, the waiting game is. But you're very adept at that waiting game because of previous work that I've seen that you've done. But do you have a specific idea in your head of, because those black images, were they? I mean, were they? Did you work that out before you shot them?
You work with what you get, and
Right.
I think that's probably all you can do. You do hope. I mean, every time I go out, I think, am I going to get anything this morning? Is it going to happen? Is anything going to happen? And it might only be a 5-minute something within that whole 3-hour walk in the morning.
Yeah.
And it might be nothing. You know, it might actually be nothing, but it might just be enough for you. But you do go out. I go out with a sort of expectation that I'll get something all the time. Otherwise I probably wouldn't go out. I think it's that kind of classic thing that always we're looking for the next image, aren't we? We're always thinking there's something that is a little better for us to get, and so you kind of go out with that expectation. I really find it hard to leave a situation, because thinking that I'm going to leave it and something's going to happen. So it's a very difficult one to know when to pull back and, you know, when not to stay. I find that quite difficult.
Has working locally been a revelation to you?
I've enjoyed it. I would have been traveling further. My carbon footprint would have been more in a car, unquestionably. I'm having to work locally. It does seem to be working. I'll be out again this weekend. Weather looks good. Kind of wind is dropping, so we've got kind of ideal conditions. We've not got much more. Probably another couple of weeks of this before the trees will be just too dense. The sound will still be there for a while, but the trees will just be too dense, and we won't be able to pick them out anymore.
So what sort of package are you going to be putting together for when you publish in November? You're obviously a CD.
Yeah, there'll be a CD which will have music. Bennett Hogg will be doing some music that's been inspired by the Dawn Chorus. Jeff Sample will be doing some actual bird sound, bird songs. So that the CD will be in there. How the actual book will sit, ultimately, we're not sure yet. I mean, it's early days. We've got another 6 months in terms of designing and working out how it will pull together. But I mean, it's quite nice as well to look forward to. So at the moment, it's just building as much as I possibly can.
Right. And this next one, this is a beauty. I love this. What a beautiful shot that is of a yellow wagtail.
I can't see it now. It's gone.
No, it's gone. But I can see it on my on photo.
Can anybody else see it now? That's the key, isn't it? I don't know.
I don't know if Brian. Maybe. Here we go.
There we are. Yeah. Well, this is another. There's 4 kind of defined projects. This is another one, and this in a way brings together the 3 of my real loves, what really kind of defines me, I think, and that is photography.
Yeah.
It is ornithology and birds, and it's also books. You'll know that, Em.
Yes.
I'm kind of book mad, really, and collecting books. And what I've been doing is I've been collecting old photographic books relating to early bird photography, and also early ornithological writings, and then taking photographs that tie in, don't necessarily purely illustrate, but add something else to the work. So it's almost that kind of, hopefully you're getting that third effect. 1 plus the words gives you something else.
Yeah.
And they are done in this layout, particularly because this is the way I think probably when I eventually come around to some kind of publication, they will work as pages in this way. So rather than just looking at the images here, we're looking at page layouts and with some quotes which are from some books. If you read the second one, but I'll just explain a little bit about them first.
Yeah.
For example, the top on the yellow whitetail, that comes from about the most classic yellow whitetail book ever written, which was in the 1950s by a guy called Stuart Smith, and it was part of the New Naturalist monograph series. He was also quite a good photographer and began to see the benefits of using photographs in the 40s and 50s for studying birds and bird behavior. And the reason these two quotes are here together, the second one, which I hope you would read, Em, in a minute, is by Richard and Cherry Kearton. Now, you'll have heard of those as being kind of very pioneers in bird photography. And the interesting thing is that the Yellow Wagtail book was dedicated, or the first book, not the Yellow Wagtail book, rather the first book that Stuart Smith wrote, which was actually called How to Study Birds, was dedicated to Richard Kearton. So there's a nice link between the two texts here. So if you could read that second text, which is from a book that was published in 1899, if you can see it.
Yeah, I can see it. Bear with me. I think of all the spring seasons that dwell in my memory. None are sweeter than the arrival of the yellow wagtail in its old breeding haunt. When the sunshine and showers of April begin to coax forth the buttercups, and the keen are turned out to browse them in the meadows of my native Yorkshire dale, down flies a gaily dressed and cheerful little bird. He loses no time in any kind of useless preliminaries, but commences at once to run about round and between the legs of the cows, taking short fluttering excursions into the air after flies, or snatching them up from amongst the short green grass. Frequently, he will walk up within a few inches of a cow's face and hawk the insects she shakes from her ears without being in the least frightened himself, or disconcerting the beast in the smallest degree. They understand each other, for they are all mutual friends and benefactors. The one attracts the food supply of the other, and the reduction of a pest that tickles ear, eye, and udder all day long is something to make even mild-eyed cow grateful. What a delightful piece that is.
It is lovely, isn't it? I mean, you're trying to find something that perhaps, certainly in a book of that age, you wouldn't find that kind of writing now. You know, that is very much of a time.
Yes.
And as I say, the images themselves are not about directly illustrating. They're about kind of a combination. So hopefully the whole layout and the whole page begins to say something about both the book, the text, the image, and the bird itself.
Yeah, I've got the sort of messaging up here, Tim, and a couple of questions to throw in your direction. Now, has Tim noticed any major changes to the environment or nature since lockdown?
Well, yes, in terms of the noise, certainly from the dawn chorus. I've noticed the verges are not being cut to the same because the councils can't get out there, which is brilliant. So we're getting much more wildflower activity on verges of roads and things, and hopefully maybe that can carry on. It is actually, curiously enough, it's a cheaper way to maintain the verges anyway. They don't need to be cut as often as they are. So maybe the councils will actually learn something from this as well. So yes, I think you do notice differences. I have been noticing differences.
There's a comment here, and I'll read it to you. This might be related to Tim's work. Search National Trust Dawn Chorus for their live music event tomorrow. So
right, okay, yeah, great, because it was Dawn Chorus Day last week, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So I know the RSPB were doing well. I didn't know the National Trust were doing well. So there we are. I'll have to look at that.
Yeah, and maybe a personal question has come in. Is Hugh your son?
He is. Involved? Who said that?
I have no idea.
He's a graphic designer. He is. Yeah,
he is, and a very good graphic designer too. Excellent stuff. Right, there we go. That's and this one is.
There are just three I've put in here. I've got there are loads of these, and we'll talk about when's the right time to kind of go public with this kind of work as well.
Yes.
But this is actually a book from George Bolam, which is Wildlife in Wales.
Yeah.
But George Bolam was actually born in Tyneside.
Right.
But spent, curiously enough, he was one of the first people to be commissioned to look after the red kites in Wales in around 1912, which is also really quite nice. And he spent 2 years around Bala in North Wales, writing copious notes and observations for the book Wildlife in Wales, which is a really lovely book. And that was published, I think that was published in 1920 was it 4 or no 1913? Look, 1913.
Yeah, 1913, yeah.
Yeah. So again, perhaps you could just read.
Do you know what I like about this photograph? He's looking. Well, is it a he or a she?
It is a he. It's a male hen harrier.
Right. Okay.
The female's known as a ringtail and looks a completely different bird, actually.
Right. Okay.
But the male hen harrier's got to be one of my favorite birds. I mean, it's like a ghost as it goes through the landscape. It just floats through the landscape. So that's wonderful.
He's saying hello, Tim. There
he is, isn't he? He's right in the lens. Yeah.
How long? Oh, just out of interest for our viewers, how long? I mean, I guess you are the type of guy who will know where these particular birds' habitats are, and a lot of research. I know you do a lot of research into things. How long did you have to wait for this?
So it's really hard to say. I mean, you can wait all day for a pass of something like this.
Yeah.
You know, you literally can, or you can be lucky and it can happen within the first 5 minutes.
Yeah.
There's no given, but you just have to be prepared.
Yes.
To say, you know, you're going to give it the time, you're going to sit up, and you're just going to wait. And then it is a hoping game. And this was nice because as he came past, like you say, he almost gave me the eye.
Yes.
Which was very nice.
Yes. Okay, so do you want me to?
Yeah, if you could just read this one, Em, if we've got the time to do it.
It's kind of pixelating a bit here, but I'll do my best. Some people I met in the district professed to be acquainted with a hen harrier, and its memory is perpetuated on the sign of the village inn at Llanuwchlyn. The name of the inn is Gwesty yr Yryrod, or the Eagles. But on the signboard, the king of birds is represented by 3 very dove-like harriers in pursuit of a hare. The paintings, no doubt, the work of a local artist, and rather suggest that, not being acquainted with a real eagle, he had represented the bird with whose appearances he was more familiar. When differentiated, which is probably not often by the ordinary Welshman, the name given to the hen harrier is a bored tinwyn, or white-tailed kite. But this is said to be only a modern substitute for a more ancient one, bored glass or bored llwydlas, blue or grey-blue kite.
It's lovely again. It's just a lovely little bit. I like the actual misidentification.
Yes.
Something. And of course, we were talking last week when we've both eaten in the Eagle.
Yes, it's very nice food. It's an excellent hostelry.
Yeah, so I mean, it's lovely just reading through the old books, and then I'm kind of quite diligent in the way that I will do it when I'm reading through. I've always got a notebook, and I will, with a pencil, carefully mark where it is, and all my books in my library are numbered. And it's a kind of real proper library system. Yes. And so I can kind of go to the quote when I like to go to the quote. So
that doesn't surprise me at all. Knowing you so well. Here we go again.
Well, it's the last one in this series. It's a very, very quick one-liner. This was from a book I found recently, which I really enjoyed, which was called Adventure Lit Their Star. And it's actually about the first breeding of the little ringed plover in Britain back in the 40s. But it's written as a novel, which is a very curious one. And it's the only book I've ever really known that's written as a novel that puts birds as the central player within it. It was written by Kenneth Allsop, who was the BBC presenter and broadcaster.
He was indeed.
And probably remember him doing the Tonight programme in the 1960s.
Yes.
Well, he wrote this book, and it's a beautifully lyrical book. And it's just a one-liner from this. So sometimes I'll be just taking out one lines from this. So, if you could do that again, it'd be nice.
I'll do my best. For a little time, they, little ring plovers, fed busily and contentedly about the gravel where the larks climbed and descended their silken ropes of song.
And that's exactly what it is, isn't it?
Wow.
Do you remember us going on the Garth along a few years ago?
It was absolutely magical,
wasn't it? It's still one of the salient memories I've got of birdsong was that walk we had. because they were everywhere, weren't they?
Absolutely everywhere. The whole, I mean, the sky was alive. It was extraordinary, extraordinary. There's a similar place in Pembrokeshire, which I sometimes go to, and Skylark's nest there as well. And it's a beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah, it's wonderful, isn't it?
Yeah.
So there are lots of photographers, early photography books that I've been dealing with. So, you know, we'll have the likes of Arthur Brooke in there, who of course is the Welsh photographer from Builth, near Builth, Wales. Right. A lot of his work in the National Museum of Wales.
How did they go about? Because obviously the equipment wasn't as sophisticated as it is today.
Yeah, I mean, complete awe with I think that's partly why I enjoy reading and collecting them. I'm in total awe of the quality of the work. And how they managed to work with the birds at the period of the time. And we're talking about glass plates being inserted into, you know, 6x8 cameras or bigger even. Time and going out on an expedition with only 5 plates. Well, that's quite extraordinary. I mean, I feel, you know, I'm cheating, Hugh. If you look at that Black Cap series of the Black Cap singing, I rattle off when that's going on, because I want the beat to be coming out and you don't know when it's going to happen. I'll rattle off 200 images within, you know, a couple of minutes. Well, if you look back through some of the early bird photographers, what they're picking up was extraordinary. So I think their fieldcraft and their understanding was a lot stronger actually than we have now.
Actually, somebody's quoted, come in with a question here, actually noting Arthur Brooke. Tim might be interested in Amgueddfa Cymru's collection of Arthur Brooke's photographs. Fascinating bird photography from the first half of the 20th century. Another Welsh secret.
Yeah, I've not seen the full collection there, because there was an exhibition 2 or 3 years ago, and it just had a few plates, but it's certainly something I do want to go down and spend some time with, you know, and actually look at the collection there. So yeah, I'll be doing that.
Cool. And this, well, we're moving into a different territory from what I'm used to with Tim Collier, but another collaboration. Tell me about this one.
Well, this is we've been working with Sue Hunt, who's a printmaker and a painter too, for probably about 3, nearly 4 years now. And we're about right, I think, now, about ready to hopefully approach some galleries perhaps with this. We've been working for a good while, and it's really born from a quote which I'll read this time.
Okay, cool.
From Mark Rothko and his book, The Artist's Reality. And we're dealing with space, and space and illusion is what really photography deals with anyway. I mean, the whole thing is an illusion. We translate 3 dimensions onto this curious 2-dimensional plane.
Yes.
You know, so I mean, as soon as we talk about reality in photography, we're in danger because it's no way reality. But anyway, so this quote really spurred us on to start thinking about how we might begin to look at that curious notion of space and of, in a sense, the air that exists between things. So the artist who creates illusory space is interested in conveying the illusion of appearance. In his very attempt to be faithful to appearances, however, he cannot give air any appearance of actual existence, for a gas cannot be seen. Hence we have an appearance of weight for objects themselves and none for the air that surrounds them. As a result, the appearance of the illusory artist achieves is of things moving about in an emptiness. So in a sense then, we're sort of beginning to look through and beyond, and sometimes that might mean just tiny elements being what we would class as in focus, which is also a curious notion anyway about this. What does in focus mean? It only means a subject that we might be looking at is, in this curious thing, in focus, but there is a lot that goes before and after that that is actually still very, very relevant. And you could actually, curiously, I've been working with doing something which is quite alien, and that is actually, we might say, deliberately playing with out of focus images.
Right.
But the curious thing is that we're actually photographing and focusing on, if you like, the air that's before that subject.
Right,
Now,
okay.
it's a hard one, but it's really interesting to work with.
Yes.
And it's been great working with Sue, because again, our work has fired off in completely different directions from when we first got working on this together.
Yeah.
We have also produced lots of films, which is something that neither of us had begun to do or had done initially. So it's taken me on a journey completely unexpected, and that's what I do like about the notion of collaboration. And I would argue about, some people say, oh, they're very abstract. And I would kind of argue that it's really an interesting one. And I've talked about and written about this elsewhere, about the notion of what abstract is, because I'm a bit uncomfortable with the idea of abstract, in that it's really just a way of looking.
Yes.
And that anything you kind of put in front, particularly when you're working with a camera thing, has a basis of reality within it.
Yeah.
And certainly the works that you're seeing here, they certainly do have a basis of reality in it. You might not know what they are. I certainly do. I know where they've been taken. I know how they've been taken.
Yeah.
It might not become apparent to the observer. That doesn't matter.
No.
But that would question the notion of abstraction within image making.
Yeah, beautiful. Here we go again.
So this one, we've got a photograph actually on the right.
Yes.
And we've got a collaboration of a painting and a photograph on the left.
Okay.
So we're beginning to work with mixed media.
Yeah.
We're combining our work. So although our work has gone off in separate directions, independently as a photographer and a printmaker, we're bringing them together too, and seeing how they would fuse, and seeing how that would change the space within this curious flat two-dimensional surface.
Yeah, beautiful. Love them.
And I think as we move through, we're to some degree, we're beginning to get more minimal.
Yes.
And maybe that is to be expected to some degree when you're dealing with this subject matter. I have to kind of maybe defer on this one to see what the next period of work actually brings. But this minimalism is becoming to be quite important and quite apparent within it. This is still a mixture. This is a fusion of Sue's work and my work.
Okay.
So this is a painting and a photograph that are coming together.
Okay. Sweet. Nice. Nice cool tones. Now then, one of your great loves, of course, is Scotland.
Yep, it is. And we were in Mull a week before the lockdown.
Right.
So we got the last week on Mull. And it's a place that I love. I've been to many times over the years. Always tend to go to Mull in the winter or the kind of earlier part or later part of the year. I tend to miss those sort of summer months.
Yeah.
You're guaranteed something of drama when you go.
Yeah.
And again, of course, at that time there are less people around, which is something that I would certainly relate to.
Yeah, well, I know that. Ladies and gentlemen, that is a fact. Tim don't like moving amongst people very much.
That is very true. It's actually quite nice doing this talk here, isn't it? Because
it's excellent
to deal with people in that way. But no, so I do enjoy getting out at that time, and you can see again that I'll tend to be out in all sorts of weathers. Early morning, late evening are the times for me to photograph, unsurprisingly. And still working in black and white in this, and this is building up. I don't know where this is going, Em.
Okay.
But I have 10 years work from this island near enough over the years, and I have to put it together in something at some juncture, but I'm not sure how. I'm not sure in what context. I'm not sure with what words. I don't know. So
weather plays an important part in your photography, doesn't it? Because I mean, I know you're a lover of squalls. I'm a lover of squalls.
Yeah, definitely. Well, the next image is just of that, really. I mean, this was again this March here,
right?
And this is Loch Nakiel,
yeah,
on Mull on an incredibly squally day, and here you've really got to watch your equipment. I mean, I've got two cameras, two Lumixes now. One because I had to buy it off my brother because when I borrowed it, I actually broke it out in the weather, you know. So the screen doesn't work anymore. Everything else works on it, but the screen won't work on it. But I have to go out in these conditions and kind of take pot luck really, and hope that the equipment will hold up to it, you know.
Yeah, I know it's really I don't know, maybe it's just the screen, and because they're not high-res images as such, but there's a hint of color in them, bizarrely. I see.
They're actually selenium toned. Yeah,
right.
so it's mimicking the old selenium I used to, when I was a dark room. Do you remember those days? Then I was a real fan of selenium. It'll probably see me off earlier than I should because it's not very nice stuff, and you know, we're probably not using it in entirely the right way. But anyway, so I've always had a love of the selenium.
Yeah. And there's a nice comment come from Glasgow here. No midges in the winter.
I forgot to say that one. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Yes.
No midges. Gosh. Yeah. I think I remember seeing a picture of you. Was it? Did I see a picture of you with? You had a net over your head.
Oh yeah, I've got the whole garb. Everything. I've got the nets over your hat. You look ridiculous. I've got gloves on. I mean, it can be sort of 25 degrees if in the summer if I'm up there, and I will cover every possible place, you know, within there.
And we've come to the last spread, really.
And again, taken in Mull this last time, just before the lockdown, and colour. So I'm sort of working in both colour and black and white there. Late evening this time, looking towards the wilderness in Mull, and again playing with the quality of light that you get at that particular time of year. That, you know, if you were to be there now, it would be slightly different. You wouldn't be getting quite so much of the low light and the rich warm light that we're picking up here. So no doubt I'll be back there, but I don't know what I'm going to be doing with these.
Well, it's a gargantuan amount of pictures you have, I suspect.
It is, and that is part of the problem. It's part of the problem because you don't really. You're too close to it. I think to some degree sometimes, so you don't know, and because you have an association with each image in terms of, you know, the context before and after it was taken. You know that there may have been a white-tailed eagle flying off 3 minutes later down there, so that is part of the image, but nobody can see it. So you know, there's context that we lose in single images, but they're with me,
of course,
but they're not with somebody who's viewing the work. No,
but it's I think being with you is part of the joy of it all, really, isn't it? That's what gives you the buzz, the adrenaline rush.
It is. Yeah, absolutely, it is. Yeah. Definitely.
I've had there's another question coming in here, which is kind of nothing to do with this, but Tim plays with perception. Does he still do upside down photographs?
Who's that from?
I have no idea.
Somebody's remembered that, haven't they?
Yeah, somebody has.
Well, it's something I would not. I'm not doing it now.
No.
But the artist that I'm doing it with, or who I did that with, Terry Duffy. I'm still in contact with Terry.
And where's Terry from?
Terry from Liverpool.
Right. Yeah.
And you know, it's something I would revisit for sure. It's not something that I would shy away from doing again. I'm still really interested in that work. I don't know whether I will revisit or whether that's had its day with me. I'm not sure, but I'm interested. I'd love to know who.
Well, I do know actually who. Mr. Paul Cabot.
Oh.
And Paul, of course, has just published a book, self-published a book about the valleys, which is worth people having a look at. So yeah, there's a mention for you, Paul.
Hello, Paul.
That's really wonderful. It's been, as usual, Tim, an absolute joy to talk to you about your work, about photography and your passions. And you always give me that little bit of, I don't know what it is, a kick up the proverbial really, to do more photography and to think more about what I'm doing as a photographer. You're an inspiration.
I think in a way we all need that, you know, and I sit here feeling the same, that I need that, and sometimes a platform like this begins to do that.
Yes.
For you, and hopefully for others as well. So
yeah, cool. Well, thank you very much, Tim. And on that note, I'll say goodbye. I did forget to mention, I'm back online now. This is wonderful. This is live.
This is live, is it?
This is live.
This is still live. You've had a prompt in your ear, have you, Em?
Well, yes, the slide came up. Is to remind everybody once again, if you haven't filled in the photography survey Wales 2020, please do so. It'll be interesting to see what transpires from all the information that we've had about photography in Wales. And with that, I will say good night.
Good night.
Good night. And I'll click my camera off.
Me too.